Bonsoir. Bonsoir tout le monde, bonsoir everybody. Hello Thomas. Hello Steven.
واحد زاهي مع غزالو واحد يحكي في فعالو واحد كيفي واه يبكي ويزيد
Hello Raph.
امان امان يبكي ويزيد فوق الرمل يجروا ويديروا في اللعبيات
Hello Frank. Hello Johnny. Hello everyone.
ويحيروا في النظرات
Tonight I wanted to start with a little classic of mine. One that set me on a few paths. Hello Sean. A music that during my teens I loathed. Really didn't like that. Of course, I was only exposed to the more commercial aspect of that music, if that's even fair to say, since that music is supposed to be party music. But now we got like a more oblique high song. Hello Spiderland, how you doing? Yeah, travel we're gonna do tonight, I think. Yeah, we're gonna follow travelers as well. Exactement, Nico. Hello, Nico. How you doing? Been working on trying to create an edit of that track for 4.5 years now. Not the easiest. It's got such a pretty unique groove. And when you do an edit, usually you want to help this fit within a larger context of tunes you'd play for a party, a dance floor, whatever. And this is not easy. Ah, Frank, that happens. Sorry about that. Good to know. Nico here, Seashell Love, pretty amazing artist. Levande improviserad musik. There was quite a few copies of it when I played it, I would say. Hit me up, Frank. I might have a source. Voilà, hello tout le monde. So that was indeed the Rye Rebels. Probably one of the earliest doors into the world of Rye for the Western world. I think this was in 88, 86, 88? 88, yeah. The track I played was by Wari Benchenet, featured on the compilation. On this, featured on a cassette album of his originally. That is absolutely amazing. But yeah, cassette only. This is a cheap record. You got like tracks by Sheb Khaled when he was still not Khaled, and Shaba Zaouania, whom we played a couple of weeks ago, I believe, again, and Shaba Fadela. Just a great compilation. Budget, you can still find this. I'm pretty sure there's tons of copies of this for less than 10 or around 10. Like every time I find one, I buy it here. And I do find it here in Sweden. It's an English record, I believe, originally. There might be different pressings. Anyways, how is everyone doing? So interesting week here. Including what we're listening to, actually. Yeah. Last week's streams was interesting as I got a bunch of people recommending me stuff that set me onto a few rabbit holes, as usual, as per usual. But yeah, I had to, there was a lot of digging and finding and buying this week. So I'm like, I'm pretty, square one. And on that note, thank you, Thomas Corcoran and Frank, for leaving early tips in the coffee jar. This is how this happens every week, if you haven't caught me say that before. Yeah, if you're here and you're not subscribed, well, subscribe, leave a like to the video if you are liking the video, if you expect to like the video, and if you don't like the video, you can always take it away. And if you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, well, leave me a comment to let me know what you think. We might find more rabbit holes, more paths to investigate, such as this one that was set last week as I was playing. I had already played this 7-inch by Archimedes Bodkar and Afro 70, but I hadn't played the album, and I played the album, which has a little more of Archimedes Bodkar, which is basically a fusion spiritual jazz band from Sweden, featuring early on Bengt Berger, Christer Bothén, a bunch of others, and at its core, Per Tjernberg, whose first solo album I played last week. A lot of people seem to have liked it, because I've seen the numbers after. It's a wonderful album. But it helped me, as someone was asking me about a record of theirs that I wasn't aware of, because it was fairly recent. And that's the one we're listening to right now. Because yeah, where else would I find it more easy than in Sweden? Not the best artwork, I would say. It's a box set, double LP. Archimedes Bodkar, their very last album, which doesn't really explain how This is essentially Per Tjernberg's band now, with a bunch of friends. Here with references to the past albums, to the albums of the past. Like, this is their logo on their first album, and each there is like a variation with including the artwork of said album. These features Dr. John, Bill Laswell, Don Cherry, and words by many people who are quite interesting, including also lifts, borrowings from, well, John Coltrane, Alice Coltrane, Mick Jagger, and a shitload of people. It's a pretty fantastic album that goes in many different directions. I will play another track of it. Hello, Max. What a transition, huh? Hello, Maurizio. How are you doing? Hello, Zetman. Salut, Magic Berber. Ah well, we'll see. The reissue of his album from '93, double CD I believe, or CD, just released as a triple LP. Interesting. I'm not 100% sold on it yet, but yeah. Hello, Joel. Yeah, 15, 20 bucks for a box set. Yeah. And thank you, Sean the Vinyl Dreamscape, Seashell of Love, Maurizio, and Revenge for leaving nice tips in the coffee jar early on as well. Merci. So that album was released in 2020 or 2021. Basically the album that no one was waiting for. But I find I find it interesting. This guy, Per Tjernberg, he, as I was explaining last week, he's responsible for the first hip-hop record in Sweden, one of the earliest electro records. He was doing like prog fusion jazz that hinted at John Hassel in the mid-70s already. So here he is with the sunglasses here. And this album was, by the way, made under the patronage of Allen Ginsberg, Don Cherry and Fidel Castro. I know. Some people will feel a little bit weird about that, I guess. Hello, Johan. Yeah, hello Rudiger. Interesting how you would think this starts as a country tune, and look where we are right now here. Imagine if we just came into here. Salut Fabien. Yeah, exactly. Here you got Bill Laswell, Dr. John. So really odd. An odd lot put together here with odd music that is not that odd. Exactly, country in opposition. Big band, country in opposition. Hello, Stefan. Well, congratulations, Thomas. See, here we're not that far away from the music of Don Cherry of the late 70s. But I guess the cover is kind of honest when it's coming to that track. There'll be a bunch of Swedish records tonight, by the way. Are you up to date now? Have you aligned your chakras, Stefan? Hello Dominique, how are you doing? I mean, there's something like 15-20 tracks on that record. You're bound to find something to your liking, I would say. Hello Coco. Hello Clacker. And yes, this record was not on my radar until I played their third record last week, and someone was just innocently asking me about it, about this one, how it is, and I was not aware of it, since I didn't expect them to have more recent records, especially on vinyl. And there we go. But you know how we love contrast here. I believe this is the latest EP of Operant. Sort of like cyclic noise. Quite unique. So I would believe this would qualify as music to scare the parents, right? Well, I don't know what that was, but it's a pretty cool single. I don't know that, Johan. I'll have to check that out more. Yeah, Joel. I know what you're talking about now, yeah. Hello, John. Hello, Jesse. Now, tune up your volume. I have to fix a little bit of a cable here, but wait. Yeah, fuck buttons. Transporting free. Hello, Andrew. So now, probably one of my favorite releases of the year so far. How often do we say stuff like that? Yeah, some of you might have figured out which label this is from. This is Jürg Frey's extended circular music for flute. So Jürg Frey is a German composer who's been around since the late 70s, I would say. Maybe a little earlier. I'm not really sure, but I think so. Mid-70s, something like that. He's been somewhat popular in the avant-garde modern classical circles in the 90s and 2000s. But this is the very first release on vinyl of his body of work, which comes through the dedication of Manuel Zuria, the Italian flutist. They don't say much about him here, but I remembered him from an odd record that I shouldn't remember normally. If you bought that big box set on temporary residency of William Basinski, the disintegration loop, which came as a 9 LP set with 4 CDs and a DVD. So you had the first four volumes of the disintegration loops, plus 2 live interpretations. One performed in New York in 2012 or 13, and one that was the very first one performed by an orchestra in Venice, arranged and orchestrated by this guy, Mario Zuria. Manuel Zuria, sorry. And conducted by William Basinski in Venice. So he has some interesting credentials. He's an instrumentist, but also, as you can see, this guy chooses material from a contemporary composer, and he sorts of does a small monography of his work here. And it's lovely. Hello, Mark. Jesse, I guess there's a few good tracks, but I think for me Vatican Shadow is someone trying to capitalize, probably because of love, on Muslim goals, and not quite succeeding sometimes. Cheers Clacker, and cheers Will, for leaving tips in the coffee jar as well. Merci les amis. By all means, everyone, this week has been pretty intense in terms of producing the next few streams, so I appreciate everyone. And cheers Will for the nice word you just left me. Yes, Max. That one, you know, when records on Bluma, the label, comes, sometimes they're limited, sometimes extremely limited, so you have to think fast. Is this worth my while? I don't go with FOMO. I will get something I really want, and this was fairly easy to figure out, I would say. Hello, Ivan. Ah, le Mandigo, cool, Coco. Coco got a cheapo, a great cheapo. So this is flute, huh? A somewhat long piece, but there are shorter ones. So I guess I'll let this play into the next one, so you get like a little bit of a larger idea, a wider idea of if this is worth it. When I got this and I entered it in my Discogs collection, I saw there was a couple of copies for sale on Discogs anyway. So, salut Anthony. Yeah, absolutely. But on CD, I believe, huh? So I'll give you an example. When this was released or announced, they had another release from another composer, a woman who did some extremely experimental music for the time in the mid 50s. Music that was supposed to, or believed to be lost. And in recent years, it appeared to not be totally the case. And the record, I believe, was even more limited. I think they only did 100. And it was really interesting. But I also thought, yeah, it's interesting, but not for me. So no FOMO. Be critical. He has a few works where he's featured, where you can find him on vinyl, but not much. But this is a revelation, I would say. I'm saying again, this is one of my absolute favorite records of the year so far. And we're getting pretty deep into the year now. Hello, Dom. Yeah, this is one of the two new Bloom releases, and I was just saying that I believe the other one is not as essential as this one. Now how about someone who has helped some of us open the doors?
Put your hands together for the sublime core stylings of Hrvatsky.
The new beat version. Yeah, that it can be like that. Yeah, cheers on your link to that video. Done. Here's the Bloom LP. They don't always come with a color one, but like this one did. Sounds really good, I must say. So I was talking earlier with Andrew about the Quillpone label, which is a good fit for him, as a lot of records I might play have been bootlegged on CD by Quillpone. Quillpone, which is the label of Keith Fullerton Whitman, currently residing in New York, and who started 20 years ago this venture into democratizing avant-garde electronic early music. By then he had already had a bunch of LPs under his own name on Cranky and other labels like that. But before that he used to do music under the name of Hrvatsky, IDM stuff. And this is it. This is a Hrvatsky 7-inch on Planet Mu from late 90s maybe, or early 2000s, I'm not really sure. Hello Andora's Revenge, how you doing? So I put this on 33 at +8 instead of its intended speed at 45. That would just tell you or show you the mind of someone like a warp kid, Aphex Twin, Attacker and stuff like that, right before he would step into pure avant-garde electronic music and experimental music as such. Nah, this is IDM. Ketamine IDM, Johan. How it's supposed to be played. So drill and bass. We're just plain sort of schizophrenic IDM. Ronnie Size, he was the drum and bass guy who wanted to play live. So Hrvatsky, I'll show you the label as soon as the track is finished. So I guess this is a sort of a little postcard of the early 2000s or late 90s, probably early 2000s. As this came out on Planet Mu. Hrvatsky, Insect Digestion, Melancholy. We were listening to Epoxy, a live track. So 2002, 23 years old on Planet Mu Music's label. So how is everyone doing right now with this stream? Yeah, a little bit too much Magic Barber, I would say. Now, a record that was that passed under the radar of way too many people considering the credits on this. I showed it in one of my earliest videos, I would think. This is Cyan Oregon. And we're listening to a track featuring Paul Sandra and Peter Christopherson. And Seb Goldfinch on violins. But here is a sort of forgotten Peter Christopherson entry. There we go, sorry about that. Now it's starting to make more sense as a Peter Christopherson contribution. Sorry, I don't know how to talk tonight. Thank you, Andrew, for leaving a tip in the coffee jar as well. Merci. I would say this is still a cheap record, but Sean will tell us if I'm right or not. Certainly it's a forgotten one in the canon. I think there's a CD album or such where you can find this, and a bunch of other tracks where Peter was somewhat involved. There you go. Actually, both songs have Peter Christopherson. I seem to vaguely remember Cyan Oregon being a sort of almost lyrical pop singer. But here we got him in a certain angle. And now a brand new release that has intrigued me for quite a while. I think the whole album is actually really strong, but I haven't had time to listen to it that much yet, like just a couple of times. And I think it kind of is a well follow-up to what we just listened to. A more contemporary though. Hello, I'm the Dead. I saw that there's a subcult party very soon in Reykjavik with Ryan and Ryan Trinor and Mark Fell and Björk DJing. No, it's something I'm very unfamiliar with, but I can see how you would think of a very contemporary sounding Ledger in Pink Dots. It's the first album of a band I know nothing about. I believe they're from Italy. They are called UFOBAR. UFOBAR in one word. There we go. Ufficio Misteri. It's an Italian band, that's the only thing I know about it. I just thought the production was amazing on this when I heard it, some snippets of it. It goes in many directions. It's very difficult to pinpoint what genre it is. And as Sean is giving you the link there, I think they describe it, abstract experimental left field stoner rock down tempo. I would even add trap. Hello Thomas Kiefer. No insurance. Can't afford that. And almost everything is on Discogs, indeed. How would you describe this? This is sort of like a prima matera electronic soup with different techniques, modern and old. Could remind you a little bit of Legendary Pink Dots, indeed. Could remind you a little bit of Coil. Difficult to pinpoint, huh? Cheers, Johan. Yeah, nah. I'll let this play into the next track, so you get every track is quite different from one another, but so you see a little bit of the range as well here. It's definitely a project I'll be investigating who that might be and what they've done, what they're about to do, for sure. Yeah, there's even some post-punk in some tracks here, whatever that means. Oh yeah, Bandcamp Friday was brutal for me, both in terms of how much time I had to spend, and I'm not even done checking everything that was hinted at me. And I did order quite a few records. There you go. Hello Sultan Rex. How you doing? A little bit of a dark turn. Yes, Dom. I did. Cheers. It is. And I don't even know which track is. I haven't figured out which track is the get-go one yet. Hello, Alex. It is really, really cool. It's kind of, yeah, it's sort of not miles away from Cyclic. Drew McDowell. Interesting, Stefan. What made you start that train of thought? Yeah, right. I know. Not well. There'll be an exception, at least one, soon enough. Okay. Yeah, that's. I read something about that that they changed ownership again recently. Yeah, it's pretty nice, isn't it, John? Well, I guess it's time to remind you to leave a like to this stream if you haven't already. Then. And tip your DJ of the night if you can, if you care for that, and yeah, as a few of you have already done, thankfully. Tipping being the link in the description of the video, obviously. Yeah, Stripe, huh? Yeah, I think this is a really, really, really good record that will grow even more on me, as you only got like 2 tracks here, and now something from the past. Most indeed, Alex. Good reminding. Yeah, I would say so, Stefan. Weirdly enough, I've found myself buying from Bandcamp more and more in the past year, more than ever, as too many releases are so limited that the artist will sell everything through Bandcamp before any copies could even reach other means of distribution. So yeah, if you want some records, you have no choice. And yeah. Cheers, Sean. What are you talking about, Braf? Yeah, well, you won't get bored, I guess, after that. Ah, okay. Stripe is more conservative, okay. Interesting. So we're listening to a Chilean record. For those who have a clue of what I'm talking about, not the Chilean record. A Chilean record featuring a track by Juan Amenabar, which we're listening to right now. Divertimento cordobés para percusión, conjunto instrumental y cinta magnética. So with magnetic tape. Was released on Philips. Philips, but pressed in Chile. Juan Amenabar is one of the 2 prime Chilean modern classical experimental music composers. He's not alone, but he really is up there. Came with a bunch of inserts. It's a pretty fragile package, but I was very happy to stumble upon this with my friend Andrew. So, and it's a record that you can't really price it. You could find it at in a dollar bin, or someone might be trying to load it off for some pretty penny. Yeah, there is one copy on Discogs that is quite expensive, but has it ever sold for that? No. So it's just extremely, extremely rare. That's the thing. But, yeah, sometimes it's like that. Thank you, Max Headroom, for leaving a tip in the coffee jar as well. I'm halfway through the goal of tonight in terms of supporting the stream, so that's pretty good. Since we're only 1 hour in, we still have an hour and a half to go, hopefully. Yeah, I've had some troubling internet connections, connection in the past few days. So I'm grateful that it's usually going fairly well during our Friday sessions so far. Thank you, John Downing, and Raf for also leaving tips in the coffee jar. Merci beaucoup. All thanking me and praising the selection tonight, but we haven't even gotten close to the to the greatness yet. And by the way, if you end up like going and ordering the UFOBAR record on Bandcamp or something like that, maybe tell them where you got it from, and here's actually the name of the band on the cover. It was much easier than I realized. Yeah, so this is pretty wild. Sure, this is not modern in a modern sense, but I find it pretty amazing to hear an idea of hyper-modernity from 1971 in Chile. 71. Yeah, I guess Pinochet was already there. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I've been obsessed with this composer, Juan Amenabar, since the late 90s, since 98, 99. I remember in the early days of eBay, when there were just a bunch of us bidding on records like that. And back then on eBay you would have the full name of the person, the alias and such, and you could contact that person. And of course eventually a lot of us started to exchange contacts, and I remember distinctively one guy who I became friends with, or like casual friends, casual online friend, as online didn't mean the same thing as now as well. Stelios Kores, some of you might know him on Discogs through the Red Desert name. And we were exchanging wantlists, and Juan Amenabar was on his wantlist, and that's how I discovered him. And back then it was just like impossible to get these records. Still is pretty much of a quest. Like these records fall into the grail category. Not necessarily this one, but yeah, we'll more on that soon. Here's a Philips Chilean record from '72. That's what we were listening to. So, yeah, right through the cracks. Yeah, I thought it was about then, like close to that. No, not in Sweden, but not in Chile either. Hello Fred, how are you doing? Now, the latest album from one of my absolute heroes in music, and probably one of the musicians that broke the most amounts of barriers, of musical barriers for me. This was released on the label of someone, a friend of the stream, someone who did a video with me a year and a half ago, Slobodan Kajut, on his God label from Austria. LOL, which is Mick Harris' drone ambient project. Mick Harris, whom I discovered through Scorn, who I fell in love through Scorn, his early 90s band project that he created after he left Napalm Death, Birmingham metal royalty. I guess one of the three biggest metal bands from Birmingham, the biggest one being Black Sabbath, if it is even metal, obviously. So Lul was his... so before he started Napalm Death, apparently him and Justin Broderick were both into punk music and also industrial music, and they were doing like tape experimentations and stuff like that. Stuff that has completely disappeared and never really been published. But fairly early on in his career, I guess maybe through the meeting of Bill Laswell as well, he started to release some music under the Lul name, mostly on CD back then, a bunch of 7 inches, weirdly enough. I mean, the name of the band is quite appropriate, you would hopefully agree hearing this. This is literally the sound of the abyss. No, and I'm not talking about hell here. I'm talking about the actual abyss in the ocean. Cheers, Anthony, for helping me have the right historical perspective there. Yeah, absolutely, Jesse. When you consider how early on in his career, Mick Harris mentored so many musicians from Birmingham. One of the most striking examples would be Anthony, what's his name again? The surgeon, Anthony something. Sir, they did some records together, but like I did an interview, a pretty good and long interview with Surgeon, where he explained to me how, as a teen, he would spend all his time with Mick, and Mick would introduce him to free jazz, avant-garde, early electronic music, which you might not have suspected from his look and his pedigree with thrash, grindcore metal, yeah. Pretty good pressing, isn't it? a double LP. The gatefold doesn't give you that much. So it's 4 side-long tracks. A little bit like the Time Machines album from Coil. Created, mixed and produced by Mick Harris between January and February 2025. He had not done music like that for quite a while. I read somewhere that I don't remember exactly how he got convinced to start producing stuff like that again. If you follow him on Instagram, which is fairly entertaining, I would say, and also interesting, but you get to see a window at his process, his musical process, his production process, his studio and his gear. And when he does sort of like dubstep, bass music, whatever it is he's doing, you could feel that the way he's doing that with beats is exactly the same as he's doing drony ambient like that. Equations of Eternity, that's the project he was doing with Eraldo Bernocchi. There was 2 CDs that came out in the 90s, if I remember correctly, Jesse. And they were alright. I think they had a couple of projects together. At the time, he also did some stuff with Mauro Teardo from Meathead, who's now doing Hollywood movie soundtracks. And they had a project together called Matera. They had one really good track, and the rest was so. For me, Mick Harris peaked in 1995, 96, 95 actually. After that, there's quite some time that I followed him without loving the stuff, and it's only fairly recently that he managed to do stuff that I really love again. There was every now and then some lull record that would be alright, if not better. But yeah, Arctic ambient. Well, for me, I see where there is that, but for me there is a sort of even more vastness. The Arctic is an open field, but you can still see the horizon. In this I don't see any horizon, which is why I get an abysmal feeling rather than Arctic one. But to each their own, obviously. Ah, nice, Jesse. Well, yeah. Oh yeah, that was on Word Sound for sure. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, Scaraba. I still have that CD with the fake leather. Pretty good stuff. Well, Fred, yeah, I understand that. I think it's not as striking now as it was back then. But it's still a pretty good, decent album for sure. Well, I'm not collecting, but when there's no choice, there's no choice. Yeah, the process is very different though, I would say. Thomas Conner is coming from a more like musique concrète perspective, yeah. Whereas this is weirdly enough coming more from a dub perspective. This is all about reverb here, which is also what gives me that. Just imagine these pictures, these images in your head of like being deep down in water, in almost darkness, and suddenly something really big, really big appears in your sight, and there's nothing around it, there's nothing to hide behind. Imagine like a massive whale, and you just have this like sort of dark greenish blue light or quasi-light around you, and there's nowhere nowhere to go. Absolutely, Ivan. Yeah. Yeah, same here. Well, the color vinyl I'm about to play, I would say, is not the best quality. When the music gets going, it's fine. But you be the judge of it. This is a band that almost played at Tumult 2025, my music festival with Nils. So they might be playing next year. And it's a live band. Cheers, Dub. See you next time. I suspect that Fred will love this. Hello, Quint. I certainly love this. This was just released, and it's a Swedish artist. And it's the second album I got from him. The 90s gave us their own Doug Liman in the form of Tipsy. Now we got someone else. Salut KS. Arthur Lyman, sorry about that. I love exotica music like that. But this obviously has a sort of space age quality as well. Second album of Matthias Hunebach, Harry Garth Jones presents Music for Love. Here he is. I'm gonna get some help to name the name of his band. I never remember. Ishtar Hule. Ishtar Hule. But this is he's just getting better with every record. And he's from around you one. He's from Gothenburg. I do not, Andreas Revenge. Tell me more. Write me a comment about it. Hello, Jeffrey. Yeah, it's a really groovy and fun record that has a weird quality. Well, it kind of tells you something about the music, you know. It's got this like pop whiz, but with a sort of like almost industrial feeling as well. Let's play some more of it so you see a little bit of the range again. So here a little more new agey in a way. And I think Nicolas Sichalov has it pretty well put. Because it has the sound of today indeed. You couldn't make that music 50 years ago. Hello, Edward. No, that was... oh, no. Sean hasn't put the record up yet. That was Harry Garth Jones presents Songs of Love, which... Music for Love, which in reality is Matthias Hunebach. I thought you might like that one, Fred. It doesn't work every time, huh? But it does come in this, I would say, fairly ugly pressing. That's the only one also, so it wasn't a choice. Sure, you might say it's fun, but I could have done with a... I don't care about colors, but as the music was playing, it was fine. But like between the tracks in the couple of seconds between tracks, you would hear the sort of background noise a little bit, which totally disappears when the music is there, but it is there. It's just that we can't hear it. So it's unfortunate. No, you showed the one, the record I showed. Oh, you put the record I showed first, Sean, as a reference point of Exotica. Maybe I should play Arthur Lemon for those who don't know. After a Swedish band, well, here's another Swedish band, the third one of the evening, Iskra. For those who are aware what that name might mean, well, let's say the 60s and 70s were a political time. Allemansrätt is the name of a law in Sweden, which is the reason why so many Swedish tourists died on holiday in the early 60s, 70s, when the tourist industry started in Sweden. There's a bunch of albums by Iskra. This one is... I can't even read it. This is from 1977 anyways. And the cover art, I believe, is probably by Christer Botte, and I recognize his style here. I haven't checked yet. Someone can tell me. Or with better lighting I will see. Well, Allemansrätt is a law that allows everyone in Sweden to pass through land. Basically, you're allowed to go ride wherever on someone's land as long as you don't approach nearer than 50 meters away from housing. And you're also allowed to collect berries, mushrooms. You're just not allowed to fish, hunt, and pick and take wood unless it's already fallen on the ground. You can coast your boat on an island. And when I'm talking about island or forest, I'm talking private forest, private island, etc. There you go. I recognize this. Yeah, it's fairly cheap. But it's not a rare record, but it's not a common record either. It's just that not many people care too much about it. I think it's wonderful. Obviously, sort of improv, jazz, kind of free spiritual. The label was Et minne för livet, a memory for life. Here's a record I haven't listened to in a while. I would say this is the last record of that artist that I really enjoyed. This is Richard Divine, Ale Mapper. Here's how he was hyped back in the early 2000s. Richard Divine is creating the same kind of excitement that Slayer did in the early 80s, which actually is kind of true. Back when this was released on Schematic, in the US, maybe on Warp in Europe. 2001. But it was a Schematic release. Richard Divine is this guy who has become the go-to guy for companies that want to hype and test their synth models and stuff like that, new gear, new electronic gear, and his music has become sort of sterile, I would say. It's like demos in a way, but he has a huge fandom, which is interesting for me to acknowledge, since he stayed at my place a couple of times and I know the guy, and well. Yes, and yes, Mark. So this was a sort of like extreme electronic music, digital. Like this was like back then when he did that. Like they were all obsessed with everything you could do with Max MSP patches on the MacBooks, on the Macintosh. What was the name? It was not MacBooks back then. It was Power Books or whatever, something like that. But this is the kind of record that was very hyped back then. Then totally no one had any interest in it. And now I guess it's back to a normal, decent value. So the most electronic music you could hear before the least electronic music you could ever hear. Yeah, that Rich Divine album is a very good example of where the future was going in 2001 in terms of music. Did it really get there? Rich Divine, he started out doing like hardcore techno in the early mid-90s. He was hyped first by Richard D. James, Aphex Twin, as this whiz kid who was building his own synthesizers that he met while on tour in the US. Well, that was a little bit exaggerated, the genius of Richard, but at least he got the records out. Right on, Joel. Don't box me in, huh? Who knows who that man is? Well, this is Christer Botean playing the Donzo Ngoni. The Donzo Ngoni is a specific type of Ngoni, which is this instrument that is both a guitar and a drum. You have a ring on the finger that when you play on the box there, you can hit it as well. And this is an instrument from Mali. The region that is called Mali, but then it's before the Europeans got there and decided that the limits of the lands, that was a little bit different. But so Christer, he went to Maghreb, to northern Africa in the late 60s, and that's where he got in the clue that there was music from the deep Sahara, the slaves route, that went back to Senegal, Mali, all these countries there. And he went there and found a hunter, itinerary musician, who became his master. And so he stayed there between 1971 and 72, where he learned instrument and developed his own playing. He got the blessing, he asked for the blessing of the masters of that instrument, so that he could be allowed to play his own music rather than just folk music, the traditional themes of that region for that instrument. And he got back to Sweden, and lo and behold, that's when Don Cherry came to knock on his door and ask him to teach him the Donzo Ngoni here, which he here plays. You can't see him, but this is in duo with Kansan Zetterberg, who is his disciple, and both of them performed this at the Tumult Festival 2 months ago or more now, yeah. And that was one of my main goals for the festival, to have him come and perform that kind of music, which he very seldom does. But now, with this album out, who knows? Hello, Honor. How you doing? Well, I played him a few times, Honor, Christer Botean, but there's always a first for everyone, huh? For someone. So this was just released, right? I mean, I entered it on Discogs today. The official release date is 12th of September. I don't know why I got it that early. I paid for my copy. This is released by Black Truffle in Australia, but it is well distributed in the rest of the world, I would assume. I'll just let it play into the next track. There's a couple of songs featuring also Marianne and Lemio Linden on Carignan. The Carignan is a metal scrapper that has a sort of bell sound aesthetic. But for me, that this record is released is huge. Yeah, some Don Swangoni have sort of metal plates spiked on them with some like rings, so that you can get this vibration here as well that they play with. Right on, Sean. Oh, midnight. Did we miss the party? What's interesting with this, I mean, there are several aspects, but like, is this traditional music, folk music from Mali, or is it Christer Botean? In this case, this is the Christer Botean composition on the album. All the other tracks are traditional and arranged by him. Alright, let's see someone who is called Frank. Frank Ruffing has left a very nice tip in the coffee jar. Merci, Frank. I'm getting there. Like, still a little slow tonight, but we got 45 minutes left. If you want to support the stream, if you enjoyed it tonight, if you want to tip your DJ of the night, 2.5 hours with me now, tomorrow, whenever you're watching and listening to this. If you just enjoy this, or if you're discovering the records that you want to get after this, well, that's always a nice gesture to show your appreciation through that. If you can't, you can't. But this is how it's happening every week, for sure. Merci, Frank GBL. So this record was put together through time. There are tracks that were recorded in 2019, 22, and last year. Yeah, 19, 22, and 23 actually. Cheers, Sean, for reminding people where to go. So before I play my grail of the week, which might be very underwhelming for some, but definitely not for me. Yeah, let's have a little bit of a party with one of my absolute favorite tracks to DJ. Which reminds me, I haven't played that in quite a while, but there was a good 10 years where this was never leaving my bag, even when I was playing straight up basement techno. And to go from a percussion African record, this is percussion music as well.
Body motion, caught in time. Come on, girl, please be mine. Body motion, caught in time. Come on, girl, make up your mind. In love tempo.
12-inch version of Love Tempo by Quando Quango. As far as I'm concerned, the best punk band of the 80s with Conk and Quando Quango. You can't go wrong with that. Steve Pickering was part of that crowd. Steve Pickering, who was probably instrumental in how the Hacienda in Manchester became a house club. Quando Quango was a weird team of people from different places. It was not like this little band of childhood friends who got together. It's quite interesting band in their history and the music. Oh well. Sisha Love is from Paris, and I did a few radio shows with him on Ado FM in Paris in the 90s. And radio was we're children of radio, of FM radio. So there are 3 versions of that one shown, but I think you got the correct one. The bass line, the horns, the groove of the drums here, just might have. Yeah, it was sort of a super group in a way, but not really. But just imagine being in the nightclub, hearing that on the record, or hearing them live play that. Quite fun to hear that voice as well, who's singing very straight. It's not like very technical, but he's got that kind of very factory record voice. And this came out on Factory for those of you who don't know. Same label as Joy Division and New Order, and it's the same kind of voice, I would say.
Your lies, my love disguise. Heartbeats.
For me, this song is as important as yeah. I have a brain fart now with the Patrick Coley remix of the George Gilmore produced biggest song of the 70s, which actually is almost from the 80s, thanks to Patrick Coley.
The big beat of the heart.
Or to pick up boys with Queen.
The big beat of the
Don't be that way. This came originally with a picture sleeve, I believe, but I got this like that in a DJ store, and I've never been bothered to get. Yeah, 83. And both mixes are quite different, but absolutely essential. I never know which one to play because they're both great and unique. It's now something you won't hear every day. Might be the only time. Yeah, I got Atom Rock, I got Rebel, Genius, and I got a bunch more. So playing this, as I wrote in the text announcing the video, and that is in the description now, I never thought I would ever get that record, which might sound weird considering I had never heard it, never listened to it, but I've been made aware of that record 25 years ago or so, and ever since thought like it would be interesting to get it. And over time I started to realize how hard of a quest that would be. And a few years ago, I realized that was an impossible quest. Actually, that I would most likely that would be one of these records I probably had to give up hope of ever getting. (1986), not 85. La musica trimestrielle di musica contemporanea. 11. This is a musical review magazine in the form of a record, and this one focusing on the S2FM Studio di Fonologia Musica, founded by Pietro Grossi. In Firenze. So Pietro Grossi, I think, is probably the number one forgotten name in the history of electronic music in terms of importance. Sure, we got the musique concrète heroes, Parmigiani, Pierre-Henry, François Bale, and then you got Stockhausen, Terry Riley, like all sorts of composers. Here, it's a showcase of his studio with his students. And we were listening to Franco Befani, 1966 composition. And now we're listening to a Pietro Grossi composition from 1965. This is 1965. Hello, Zelvia. How are you doing? Cheers, Sean, yeah. So, for those of you who know me well, like I like all kinds of music, but this is my Achilles heel. This is my soft spot for music and records. And I've got, so I assume Pietro Grossi, who originally was a cello musician, like he won first place in the conservatory, he was like, and he held the chair or the position in the orchestra like for 40 or 50 years. But he was early on turned into electronic music, and pure electronic music, as you can hear. And I guess he must have had not the most charming personality, or maybe not the right politics, I don't know. Because he's kind of forgotten, and most of his records were library soundtracks. He rarely did get to have a proper artist release, but some of his releases on library soundtracks are the most crazy music I've ever heard in my life. He would make tracks in the late 60s that sounded like Ottaker in the early 2000s. So, hey, Chris. So, admittedly, this is not the easiest music to get into. But, well, just getting it the other day, like holding it in my hands for the first time I saw a copy, I don't know anyone who has one, was, yeah, sort of emotional, which I don't really get emotional that way with records, but I did in this case. Yeah, there is a compilation of his work on Die Schachtel, or Skaktel, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's an Italian label. Yeah, Disachtel has featured him twice, I believe, which was good. But I feel he could use another layer of hyping for his historical profile in electronic music. In a way, this is the opposite to the lull track we were listening earlier. They're both a sort of like filling all the room with a very minimalistic approach. Although this is the opposite of minimal. Like, this is a saturation of sonic events. Like, if you listen carefully to this is almost maximalist in terms of quantity of sounds. Yeah, Sean, don't turn the knife in the wound. Yeah, I didn't get the booklet. Normally that would be like, well, I'm not getting this, I'm waiting to find it complete. But in this case, like, I had to get it. And I totally understand if you would feel this is a bit too extreme or too experimental in the true meaning of experimentation, like not necessarily something that is fully fleshed out artistically. But I would disagree with that. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony Reissue for leaving a tip in the PayPal jar. Merci beaucoup. We got about like 65-70% of the goal for tonight's tipping. So if you can take your share of the burden, like Maurizio, who right now gave a wonderful tip. Absolutely wonderful, Maurizio Borba. Thank you so much. Now I'm playing a little 7-inch from a band. I played their second album, I think, or second album a few weeks ago. Again, because I played that like years ago. Blue Chemise. Italian label, apparently. I know nothing about it. I got this years ago. I still haven't really understood what that was. But it has this sort of like pram broadcast quality that I like, that I enjoy very much. Not necessarily anything essential, but a nice little record. Yeah, Magic Bell. I'm not sure they all had records within. Hello Nashville. Hello Egnashador. How are you doing? Cheers, Chris. How are you doing? Yeah, totally. Next, we're gonna go to Canada, by way of the Amazon forest, in a way. Yeah, just a nice little 7-inch that if you don't have it, you probably won't miss it. But if you have it, you're pretty happy to have it. And I mean, I always love this sort of like handmade editions, like with the pasted on picture, hand stamped label, which is the case of this record. This is the very first Ramsey record. Étoile Timoun from the 2013 on Total Stasis, a Canadian label. She had a couple of records in 2015, 16, 17 that were really cool, really striking, that really paved the way for a brilliant career, which I think that ever since then her music has lacked the surprise of the early stuff she was doing. And this is the earlier stuff, so sort of like dubby, tropical, lo-fi weirdness with sometimes a sort of fourth world John Hassel characteristic. Cheers, Nico. À bientôt. we have 15 minutes more to go, but always happy to see you stop by. We really need to bring you here, by the way, huh, Nico?
Hidden scares and scars. Absolutely blind.
Oh my god. Don't tell me this is true. Ah, nice, Sean. Interesting.
If only stretch yourself. Get speechless. If only you stretch yourself, you can make a speechless. I still missing some skin layers for those beautiful layers. I know I should use the language of different words. Just certain times and for myself it's called.
Here it is. Hamzi, Étoile, Timoun. Étoile is a sort of phonetic for star in French, as Phoebe is from Canada and speaks French, and has her own sort of strange language as well. So what might be listened to now, huh? Cheers, Frank. So we're listening to one of the greatest albums of the past 25 years, in my opinion. Which might not be even music, according to to our friend local band discography. Oh, bandography. I always forget about that. Well, this is a record I already had, or at least a version of. This record was released as a very limited art edition laugh cut a few years ago, and is now being released in a slightly different version, at least for one track, if I understand correctly. Amazing art. So yes, this is Backside by Nurse with Wound, which technically is Steven Stapleton using sounds from a band called Bladder Flask. I have yeah. The laugh cut is somewhere here, but I can't access it right now. Too much records in front of it. Ah. Well, this record sums up so many different obsessions of Nurse with Wound, which I appreciate a lot, obviously. So you got collage, creaky sound, sort of sound poetry, sound effects, drones, toy instruments. And refurbished sounds. God kväll, Johan. I never know if that means you're arriving or if you're leaving. Because if you're arriving, you always arrive towards the end. Thank you, Macafat, for leaving a tip in the coffee jar. Merci beaucoup. Macafat, that was a first. Hello, Firebolt. No, this has just been reissued. Backside. Maybe I'll do a sort of like, audiophile comparison between the two pressings, between two records, since one was cut and the other was pressed. But yeah, it was cut as 100 copy only limited record. It was a pretty sweet deal since it had like an original sort of collage or mixed media artwork cover by Steven Stapleton. Obviously, a lot of money, but not that much. Je t'en prie. So I didn't start the record from the start. I put it somewhere in the middle of side B. As these tracks are sort of audio journeys, movies with different chapters, sometimes with returning scenes. But I love the contrast in this track, in this part of the song, where you got this really beautiful pad in the background. And the second one that is more elegiac. One is deep, one is more elegiac, and then you got all these swarming interferences. Love it. Nah, that's not possible. you must have looked wrong. Yeah, I don't think he can, Quint. The only way to sell out for him is to sell his records even more expensive than the previous one, his limited editions, which he does. But one's got to make a living, and when you're good, well, again, for those who don't know, this is the music of the guy who did the painting part of the cover art of Animals by Pink Floyd, which was his first paid gig, I believe. And this is how I'm gonna leave you for tonight, for this weekend, for whenever you're watching this. A sort of Texan take on the Spaceman 3. A band I love, a band responsible for one of my favorite albums of the 90s. Here's an EP of theirs that is fairly forgotten, I would say. I don't think it ever was even hyped. It's from 2001. Cheers, Steven. Oh well, you're welcome. Cheers, Thomas. This is Windsurfer the Derby, the Emotional Rescue EP. On the Holophonor label, Holophonor Music. 2001. Doug Matz and Jay McNeely recorded in spring 2000 at the Hope Union, Brooklyn, New York. All songs by Windsurfer the Derby except for the next track on this side, which is a cover of Section 25, Factory Records. Everything is connected. You're welcome, Sean, and thank you for highlighting the links and finding the links of the releases I've been playing. Thank you, Maurizio. Always great to have you, and thank you for your support. Cheers, Mark. You knew them personally? Nice. Cheers, Frank. And yeah, tonight, just want to say thank you again, especially to everyone, but especially to Macafat, Maurizio Borba, Anthony Riou, Frank GBL, Raf Kozak, John Downing, Max Headroom, Andrew Lukoff, Will, Clacker, A Revenge, Maurizio again, Nico, Seashell of Love, Seashell Love, Sean the Vinyl Dreamscape, Frank Gidget, and Thomas for leaving tips in the coffee jar, and also to Graham, Daniel, Ryan for leaving tips during the week as well. Merci beaucoup, everyone. If you have left something on PayPal and I missed you, I'll thank you next time. But thank you, everyone. Good night. I hope you had fun. I hope you had surprises. And if I play something you really didn't like, well, that's life. Macafat. Yeah, I know. I don't know who that is, but Macafat. That was not as good as Magafat, but pretty close. Don't you find this has this sort of... You're only missing the voice of one of the guys from Spaceman Free singing you a lullaby. Hello, goodbye, S of Tens Victims 1876. Bye bye, bye bye.